4 years ago, on a frigid February day in North Dakota, the sun was piercing through the windows of the governor's residence. My mind was racing over what I should tell the reporter in my first ever interview as First Lady of North Dakota. Do I tell him how busy life has become? Or maybe what it's like living in the public eye? Or maybe how I've been trying to identify the best First Lady hashtag for my social media. I mean, up until that point in my life, I never thought I'd be First Lady of anything. But I was suddenly hit with a vivid moment of clarity. I need to talk publicly about it. Now, with 5 minutes to go before the interview, I knew there was no turning back. So I went to my husband, Doug, and told him, I'm ready to talk about it. And his eyes lit up with surprise and excitement, the way it would for anyone who has become your #1 champion in life. Now, fast forward to the moment the reporter asked that fateful question. You've shared that your platform is eliminating the stigma surrounding addiction. That's an interesting initiative for a First Lady. Why are you so passionate about this? I took a deep breath, and with a quiet assurance that I was doing this for all the right reasons, and just maybe my story could help one person, I said, I'm very passionate about addiction because it affects me personally. I have been in recovery from alcohol addiction for 15 years. In that moment, it felt like a 100-pound weight had been lifted off my shoulders. 15 years of silence, of shame, of wondering if I could ever talk publicly about this, had disappeared into thin air. I am so grateful to be speaking at this summit as a person with now over 19 years of recovery. Thank you to all of you who are working hard across this United States to bring solutions to the national addiction crisis. My story with addiction started when I first started drinking in high school in Jamestown, North Dakota. On the outside, it looked like my life was perfect. I had a lot of friends. I was involved in many activities, including cheerleading, tennis, and student council. But on the inside, I constantly had these voices in my head telling me that I was stupid. I always made mistakes and that I needed to be perfect. My family is very Scandinavian. And for those who may not understand what that means, we're basically Vikings. My ancestors were traders, explorers, and warriors. And we didn't sit around the dinner table and talk about feelings or struggles or ask for help. When I started drinking in high school, I thought I had found nirvana. It seemed to be the answer to all my problems. When I was drinking, the voices in my head disappeared. I thought drinking was the answer until I had my first blackout in high school. And that began my 22-year path of blackouts, addiction, and continually losing hope that I would never get better. I relapsed over a period of 8 years, and I probably don't need to tell you that those years were a living hell. During those 8 years, I had thoughts like, I need to quit drinking, and I would reach out for help and go to treatment. And then I would get a little sober time and start comparing myself to others who were still struggling with addiction. I would think, I never got that bad. I didn't lose my job. I didn't go to jail. I didn't lose my family. And I would start drinking all over again. My brain would tell me that everything was fine and it was okay to drink again. Every relapse made me more and more hopeless. No matter how much sobriety I would get, weeks, months, even years, I could not stay sober. And recovery felt impossible. I started to face my addiction when I reached out to my team leader at work. We went out to lunch, which I think I tried to cancel about 100 times. And I remember the gut-wrenching nerves and dread I felt. I finally started to share my story about how addiction was taking over my life and that I needed to go to treatment. I remember just looking down, crying, feeling so ashamed and helpless. When I finally had the courage to look up at her, there were tears in her eyes and a look of compassion and understanding. I had fully expected to see contempt and judgment, but she made me feel normal and supported. She looked at me and said, "Okay, let's do this." Her compassion, understanding, and support is one of the biggest reasons I have been in recovery now for over 19 incredible years. I could never have imagined that telling my story publicly would open so many doors. It started a statewide movement in North Dakota called Recovery Reinvented, where we reach thousands annually through an inspiring one-day event. We have launched stigma-ending initiatives in schools and in the workplace, and we've hosted a Shark Tank-like recovery innovation competition. And we have also empowered people to reach out for help and connect with resources. My story is living proof that this disease does not discriminate. Addiction affects every age, gender, ethnicity, and tax bracket. So we must always work to help others understand that this disease can happen to anyone. We also need to celebrate the successes of recovery wherever we can and be courageous in ending stigma. I have spoken at a couple of very large events, including the Amazon Web Services Summit, where in the middle of my talk, I asked everyone in the room who was in recovery to stand and be recognized if they were comfortable doing so. You could have heard a pin drop in those rooms. But after the silence, people around the room began to stand to the applause and encouragement of peers, supervisors, and colleagues, and it was so powerful. This is the type of recovery supportive cultures all of you can build in your own lives and in your own fields. There is a simple solution that you can all participate in to end the stigma of addiction and empower recovery. The simple solution is talk. Talk about how addiction or recovery has impacted your life or the life of someone you know. The more we normalize these conversations, the more stigma will be eliminated. And more people will seek treatment, find recovery, and more lives will be saved. My challenge to all of you is to talk to 3 people this week about the impact addiction has had in your life or someone you know. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to serve the great state of North Dakota as First Lady, but I am even more grateful to just be Kathryn, a face and voice of recovery, helping to eliminate the stigma of the disease of addiction. Thank you.